crowd got bigger. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just for the sake of understanding, we are being recorded for whoever would like to see this in the future. I know some of our community would like to see it in the future as well. Thank you for giving up your time, because I understand this is like a free period that you get in the college level. I know what free periods were on the elementary level and the high school level, and you would find time just to be able to sit and do nothing. So I'm glad you're spending nothing with me. To my family here, my sisters and community, I want to thank them for being here to support the story. That's pretty much what we can say, to support the story, because they live the story as I do each day. And it's a good story. And today I'd like to be that storyteller for all of you and share the story of how this young girl here, reaching out to a beggar, became this major inspiration for women and the church today, so much so that we pray each day, as was the prayer that Dr. Marr had invoked. We pray too for her canonization. So we keep that in mind too. And it's because of the prayers and the works of all of us that one day we do hope that that canonization will take place. So the story begins, and this outline, by the way, just keeps me on task. Being a teacher for many years, I remember coming to the high school and they had block schedules, and block schedules mean you had to teach for 90 minutes. I said, I can only talk for 45. Because when you taught in junior high, it was only 45 minutes. But I found quickly that I ran out of time in 90 minutes. But I'm with you for an hour, and I want to make sure I don't run out of time, and I want to cover everything. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the period before Mother's birth and after her birth. In the time in the story in Poland as it began, Poland was either on the map or not on the map. It was conquered or it was part of the conquering between the Napoleonic period and between what was going on with Russia. So sometimes we were Polish, sometimes we weren't. But all the time, if you were Polish, they knew they were Polish. They never had that taken away from them and their roots, and they stayed with that for all time, okay? No matter who conquered them. Hitler walked in 1939, they were still Polish. They rose up. They're still Polish even to this day. When the Tsar, Nicholas, before that, Alexander, all walked in, they remained Polish, okay? So, without getting off on another tangent as being a history teacher, this was the time period of uncertainty. And in that uncertainty of Poland, in this country, in 1825 of Kalisz, Poland, on the 16th of May, 2 months early, Sophia came to this world to Joseph and Josephine. And she survived. She was the oldest of 6 children. I guess that's why we get along so well, 6 and 6. But she survived in a delicate way of life, a very traumatic way of birth, 2 months early. But her mother and her father were determined to give her a good life, and she did survive into her birth and to her life. So in that prematurity, let us get to know who she was born into as Joseph and Josephine. Josephine was raised in Warsaw, went to school with the Visitantes in Warsaw, got a very good education. Her father, he was the son of a landowner. He too had a very good education. And he went in to study law. And while in studying the law, he fell into the understanding of that law in terms of serving those in need. That was most important to him. You kind of see a pattern there of where Sophia got her roots from her father, in the sense that he resonated with the poor and those in need. He resonated with the juveniles who were delinquent. And again, raised in that understanding, she understood where her father was coming from. This all would play into her mind as she began to look into her life and further what she was interested in doing and taking care of. So instead of Joseph taking his place as a landowner and as administrator, he eventually, in this legal way of the law, took care of the juvenile delinquents and in the juvenile courts. It is said that we also gain our influences from our parents. The phrase today is very prevalent when I say the word, that person's an influencer. You usually use that phrase within the social media, be an influencer. Well, Josephine was an influencer for Sophia in her spiritual growth, in her self-control. Apparently, it was used in one of the phrases that for a while Sophia was out of control. I guess being the oldest and doting on and trying to nurture her to live, being premature and not so healthy. At one point she had tuberculosis, so she was pampered, okay? So in that pampering, she took advantage of that being spoiled, and she acted out accordingly. But her mother taught her that self-control. Her mother nurtured her in terms of mortification and understanding of integrity. From her father, she learned the love of learning, the love of books. The one thing in his father's inheritance from his father, he didn't ask for anything else except his father's library. And the library had a prominent place in the Truskowska home. And Sophia found it. And often she could be found among the books. And in those books she would found the wealth of reading and learning. So much so that she, so much so that in that wealth of learning, they hired a tutor for her to learn at home. And because she was so well educated with that tutor, she began teaching her own brothers and sisters. When we take a look at the sensitivity she learned from her father as a magistrate to juveniles, she also learned the plight of neglected children, the poor, the neglected, sick, homeless, aged, immigrants, and the victims of war. This was her life. This was her time of birth and afterbirth of 1825. And if you do the math, next May 16th, she'll be celebrating her 200th birthday. So we look forward to that bicentennial. When we take a look further, I don't usually use these things, but we're going to give it a try. All right. This was, again, life on the streets. She embraced the Franciscan way of life in 1855. And even before 1855, she embraced the idea of how to serve the poor. And before that, she entered the St. Vincent de Paul Society. And in that St. Vincent de Paul Society, she learned the idea of giving to the poor and being present to the poor. And it was while there she became affiliated more and more with Father Irma was her spiritual director. And as her spiritual director, he guided her towards a future vocation. And in that future vocation, in November of 1855, she and her cousin Clotilde actually made their commitment as Franciscan tertiaries, third orders. And as third orders, tertiaries, she began her life in what would become the future of Felician Sisters. We use that November 21st, 1855 as our birthday of our founding. Her life was one of transformation. She was constantly looking at the times, people, needs, and how she can serve it. She took from her wealth and from her family the ability to serve the poor, as they also helped the poor and abandoned in Poland. Blessed Angela's followers were not only her cousin, but also the other young women of the town. And they were not just they were not just the ordinary. Some of them were the aristocrat. And if the aristocrat did not join them, the aristocrat supported them. When we take a look further, Blessed Angela used as one of her mottos to continue to cooperate with the needs and the spiritual renewal of the world. Moving forward, she used to gather the children. In gathering the children, she would go each day and she would pray before the statue of St. Felix. In praying before the statue of St. Felix, it was there that the people of the church commented about the children that came to St. Felix and the sisters who came to St. Felix, and they associated one with the other and became known as the Sisters of St. Felix. St. Felix, for our understanding, was a Capuchin Franciscan, much like Father Tom. Thank you, Father Tom. He was the first of canonized Capuchin saint, and it was relatively a recent time that he was. And so they came each day and they prayed before the statue, and they received this name of Felician, meaning happy. Our charism, moving forward, I keep saying moving forward, but we are moving forward. Our charism that Blessed Angela gave to all of us as a way of life is to imitate Blessed Mary Angela and her boundless love for God, surrendering to God's will. See, you never touch anything. Surrendering to God's will in complete, compassionate service, total availability, and concern for the salvation of all people. Blessed Angela attracted so many followers throughout Poland, and the work that was needed throughout Poland, that they set up different catechism schools along highways and byways and farmlands all around Poland in order to educate the children by day and the adults by night, in order to further their education and understanding of who this Christ was and who it is that they need to love and to follow and to imitate. And so the religious order began to grow. And as it began to grow and to come to fruition, Blessed Angela found more and more needs to be met. in her towns and the towns area and in the town areas. One of the things that was very important to her was to feed and nourish those folks who were out in the highways and byways. And one certain, I'm totally distracted here, there's a man up in a bucket right above my head here. Just lost my thoughts here. Okay.
He's acknowledged.
Wave to him. I'm just losing my thoughts here. I was like, what's he doing in that bucket up there? Sister Leontine of late memory was my speech teacher, and she said, if you lose your place, just stop. just stop. As the community grew and the social needs were gradually being met, the turmoil of the country was still what it was. And in 1863, there was an insurrection of sorts again, Russia doing what Russia does. And at that time, we had Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Now, Austria was the Catholic side, and that's where Krakow was. So our sisters had to be dispersed, okay? They had to go home. Or if you lived in the Krakow area, you were safe and you could continue, you could wear your habits, you could still teach, you could go to Catholic church, and so forth like that. Whereas in the other side, with the Russia side, they implanted and imposed the Russian Orthodox Church, its teaching, its practice, and so forth, and sisters go home, don't wear your habits, Catholic Church is dispensed. And so, what do you do? And where do you go? What's your first reaction? Well, the first order of business was, you need to go home, because that's the law, okay? And here, Mother Angela is in the midst of all this, what do we do? And obviously, you're not going to join the soldiers, you're not going to fight, but you are going to, hopefully, God willing, stay within your vows, stay within your community, and continue to do what is the right thing to do in terms of community living as much as you can within your family, in terms of your prayer life, and so forth. And so they never let that go, and they stayed faithful to that until eventually things moved forward and they were able to come together in Krakow. But there was also, at that time, how do we communicate? Mother began to write letters. Mother began to write letters, and in those letters, she wrote to her sisters encouraging them about how to stay faithful to their way of life, to their prayer life, to Jesus. And it's going to be okay, reassuring them. It's the kind of thing that you want your mother to say to you every now and then. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Sometimes I like to hear those words too, in my own mind and in my own heart. So 1863 came to pass. We then now come to a reunification of the community. Some came back, some did not, but the community again continues to move forward, And I have no idea where we're going with this next one. Yes, I do. The next piece of it is that we are now coming to America. Father Joseph Dombrowski of Wisconsin came to America and saw the needs of the Polish people and felt that they needed sisters to teach the catechism, the lessons of the day, schooling, and so forth like that. And he had a cousin in the Felician community, and he proceeded to write letters. And he wrote more letters. And he wrote more letters. And it was finally at one of the chapters where they passed the ability to send sisters to America. And Father Dombrowski's dream was fulfilled. And so when the 5 sisters were chosen to come to America to fill the needs of that time in Wisconsin with Father Dombrowski, they landed upon the town of Polonia, Wisconsin. It was literally a one-horse town with a bar on every corner. And if you go there today, there's pretty much a bar on every corner. 150 years now, 150 years later. They did not take kindly to the Sisters coming. They had Native Americans there. They did not take kindly to the Sisters coming. The Polish people took kindly to the Sisters coming because somebody could actually speak their language. And somebody was there to teach them and give them a better life. Not only was that taking place there, in the not taking very kindly, is they survived two fires where the fires were trying to get rid of the sisters. So each time they set the fires and tried to get rid of the sisters in their determination and I guess like Blessed Angela and their stubbornness, continued to rebuild and rebuild. So much so is that the place in Polonia became the cradle for America. And in that cradle, we emerged all across North America. All across North America. And so we are here today. We are here in Lodi, New Jersey, because we spread out and expanded from Buffalo, New York. Before Buffalo, New York, we had our community in Detroit. Because Father Dombrowski, while the cradle was in Polonia, Wisconsin, he founded a seminary in the Detroit area, St. Cyril and Methodius, and it was a seminary to teach the upcoming priests who were from Poland to be able to serve in America. All of this was all part of the immigration piece of it that was going on in the 1800s that we were all part of. Someone in your family was all part of this major immigration piece of it. And then we talk about immigration today, and they're still coming to America. If you're old enough, like I'm old enough, you remember too that Neil Diamond wrote a song, Coming to America. Okay? It was fabulous. His mother came from the Jewish part of the world of Europe and came to America and made a life that he grew up in and established a career and of course multi-million-dollar career in the end. But he did that wonderful piece, Coming to America, and how important that was. So in 1874 we arrived. We arrived by boat, took a train, went across, and here we are. People have to leave, I guess, whatever they're doing. So where is Mother Angela today? What is the purpose of the Felician Sisters coming to America? The Sisters coming to America totally, in terms of ministering primarily to the Polish Americans, because they speak their language, they know their customs, and their priests can say Mass and administer the sacraments as they would if they were in Poland. So 1874, the Sisters provided social mobility for young women. They entered community through the inspiration of the Felician Sisters. The congregation involved themselves in the care of the orphans that were there, the aged, the sick, the disenfranchised, and they taught them their primary courses in school. They wrote, in conjunction with Father Dombrowski, their textbooks. And until this last century, 20th century, some of the Felician school books were still being printed by Felician Sisters and published by Felician Sisters. Before our demolition in Lodi, we had our own printing press where we were publishing books as well. So here we are. We're in America. But where are we, and where is Mother Angela today? According to our Felician Services, Inc., that services us in Chicago, this is what they told us of where our ministries are and where Mother Angela can be found today. We have 3 higher eds, 2 secondary high schools, 2 Montessori schools, 3 early childhood centers, 1 elementary school and daycare, 2 hospice centers, 1 hospital, 11 social service programs, and 2 affordable housing services. And that's not all. That's just what they sponsor. But I'm looking at my sisters here, my family here. They have ministries within ministries that are not even part of Felician Services. They have prayer ministry. They have card ministry. They have ministry of sacristans. They have ministry within our treasury department here of our community local here in Lodi. They used to have ministry with the young children. They have ministry to CCD, religious ed. So there is Mother Angela today through the life of our sisters. And not only through the life of our sisters, but as they touch each one of you sitting here today in the ministry here at Felician, you are also the work of Mother Angela extended. You carry that out. You have core values that you have been taught. You have core values that are related not only to the Felician side of it, but also you're a Franciscan University. You carry out the Felician ministry. You carry out Mother Angela and her work today by your ministry. So I just wanted to give a couple of different examples of where we are and where Mother Angela can be found. This first one is St. Mary's in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. It's one of our oldest, our first, that began here in 1887. They give an array of services here for the people in Manitowoc, for the aged. And it's a wonderful situation that is there, that if I was close and if I was old and if I wasn't a sister, I would go there. And then I find out in the new program that they have there, I don't have to go there, but I can get the benefits from there and still stay at home. Because the new concept of being home and being sick is that I can stay home and I can be cared for as long as I can be cared for. And so they have Felician Village, but they have it at home so that you enjoy all the services and you have your own bed, you have your own kitchen, you have what is close to you and it's not being taken away, so that you can live in an independent situation or a nursing home situation. And not that that's not good. Sometimes I just like to feel that my things are around me and this is my home. So this is the oldest, and it's sponsored by the Felician Sisters, and we are still there today. And all of this grew out of a home for the aged, because as the needs evolved, so did our response. Moving forward, another very old entity that was begun is the St. Joseph's Home. In 1907, the sisters were asked to found an orphanage. I wanted to do the math, but I didn't have time to do the math. But they raised $100,000 in 1907 to build the orphanage. I didn't know what that was today, but I'm sure some of you with your devices, you can figure that out. I'm sure it's in the millions by today's standards. But $100,000 to care for these folks in Wisconsin, these young people who needed care. Again, where is Mother Angela today? Mother Angela today is in St. Joseph Academy, which came out of St. Joseph Home which was an orphanage in 1907. And as an academy, it takes children from 6 weeks old in a daycare to the 8th grade. And it's evolving again because Wisconsin has a voucher program for education. I think that's what they call it, a voucher program for education. And as such, they take advantage of it. This is where they go to school. The poor do not have to pay the equivalency of a Catholic education that you would have to in Bergen County. But the state helps them, and so do a lot of other people, so that they can make a go of it in their life, and make a go of it to become someone really whom God meant them to be. So these first orphans that came after the building was dedicated in 1908,
somewhere between 3 million and 21 million.
Between 3 and 21 million.
On a construction project, it would be $21,600,000.
So $100,000 in 1907 became 23 million by today's standards.
What they got.
What? Where are they today?
Right.
Thank you for that.
They're in the black one. Don't take that away.
So there you have it. So with this academy, they're making something of themselves and making better of themselves so that they can contribute to it as members of society. And again, in 2019, they had their very first graduation class, because again, what began as a home over the course of years, some further development, and then it became this daycare, childcare, early childhood, and eventually it became full-fledged until 8th grade. Okay? Again, one of our oldest institutions that we have here, Mother Angela, can still be found. Moving to something familiar to all of us as you sit here. This is your campus. This is where Mother Angela can be found. She might even be sitting next to you. She might be sitting in front of you. But Mother Angela is here because of her ministry here to this university that began in 1923, educating Felician sisters as a normal school. A normal school that eventually became a junior college, eventually became a college, and of course in 2018 became a university. Mother Angela's here. You were part of that story. You continue that story. And whether we're here or not, whether we're here sitting here or not, whether we're in your classroom or not, you have the foundation. And each Mission and Heritage Week that you have here at Felician, you should be telling that story of how you came to be. Because it's a good story. It's a good story. Did you notice too that only in 1986 you became co-ed? I'm sorry, ladies, but I'm looking at more guys in this room than you. Thank you, guys. But it's refreshing that we can open our doors to expand the knowledge to everyone. To everyone. Another ministry is a ministry of presence. Mother Angela said to serve where you are needed. And these pictures are taken from our sisters in Haiti and their mission there. Their mission to the poor, to feed the children, to empower them, to be a presence for them. Part of the empowerment is this sewing class, and they all learned how to sew. And I want to tell you how they learned how to sew. We have a sister in Poland who is a seamstress, Sister Lisa Yasha, who meets via Zoom and has her classes teaching them how to sew. We have Madonna University that still offers college courses to them, so they learn at a higher level of learning. Our other picture here is from Angela Spirituality Center that used to be in Pomona, California. This is Sister Therese. She is now in Buffalo, and she took that ministry that closed in Pomona with Sister Carol, and she now is doing ministry of presence in Buffalo. Mother Angela is on the streets of Buffalo. Mother Angela is on the streets of Jacmel, Haiti. She's still here. She's still here. Eagles in the Desert. Sister Maria Louise is vice president of the Desert Eagles, the Desert Eagles. It's a nonprofit that rescues men, women, and children who are lost in the desert because they're trying to get across the border to freedom into the United States. Sometimes it's a rescue, sometimes it's a recovery. But she's part of that mission and ministry there on that border between Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico and California. So our ministry that began with just the homeless, women and children, and teaching catechism is a whole other different ministry to wherever the need calls us. And another ministry that I want to finish with is a ministry that is pretty new in our community, in our province, and that's the ministry of affordable housing. And this is dear to my heart because I live there. Our Lady of Grace Home for Children was an orphanage beginning in 1932 as such, and we lived on, at that time, over 200 acres of land. When I moved there from there in 2014, we had 187 acres of land. It was, as a Delawarean, it was great to be part of that because a lot of it was open land. And I grew up in farmland, so it was really nice to be out there on the tractor some days, and yes, I was on the tractor. It also came at a time in my life, midlife experience, that I had children, literally. And when I tell that to high school students when I began teaching, they said, "You were a mom?" And I said, "Yes, I was." Because we were in the foster care system, I was a foster care mom to 6 children. And I thought that was ironic how 6 came right back again, being raised in a family of 6. And they were wonderful children. And in the end, when the home closed because of budgetary needs of the state, because group homes commanded more money to serve the young people 24 hours a day than a private home, we were closed. There was other reasons, but we were closed. And so we began looking for a new ministry. And what would that new ministry be? We came with some focus groups in the area, and the focus groups decided that affordable housing was necessary. And so in 2019, I believe it was around in October, we opened Our Lady of Grace Village. And there's 64 units of affordable housing there to take care of the needs of the people in that area. And so Mother Angela can be found there. And we do have a Felician sister who lives there full-time, being the presence of who our sisters are and what we do in the name of Mother Angela. She tutors children. It's amazing how it all comes full circle. How it began, how we learn, and how we learn to become better than we can think of or imagine in our own dreams or in whatever we ever thought we could become. The late Senator Edward Kennedy, while giving the eulogy for his brother, the late Robert Kennedy, spoke in the words, quote, "He gave us strength in times of trouble, wisdom in times of uncertainty, and sharing in times of happiness." Unquote. What Angela left to us as Felicians is a legacy of what she said, what she did, and what she stood for. And Kennedy continued by saying, He saw wrong, tried to right it, saw suffering, and tried to heal it. Angela inspired a social conscience among her sisters and society to have an awareness of all those around us. Go and care for the wounded, both the Poles and the Russians. My friends, we need to go forth and do the same in Blessed Angela's name. Amen.